is Monday, October 7, 2024, and it is 7:08 p.m. for the record. Agenda item 2 is the roll call. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Burke?
Here.
Trustee Hayes?
Here.
Trustee Perkins? Here. Trustee Schaller?
Here.
Trustee Schellmoser?
Here.
Trustee Van Ryn? Here. President Richardson?
Here, thank you. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Agenda item 4 this evening is approval of the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting from September 3, 2024. Are there questions or edits for the administrator on the minutes? If not, Chair would like a motion to approve agenda item 4A, minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting September 3, 2024. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Schaller, thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Was that Trustee Burke? Okay, thank you. And the administrator will please call the roll.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Abstain, I was not here.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
Trustee Schellmoser?
Yes.
And President Richardson?
Yes, thank you. Chair would ask unanimous consent that the record for the minutes remain open for a period of 5 business days for the purposes of any necessary technical and conforming amendments. Without objection, so ordered. Agenda item 5, President's remarks. We have a number of guests tonight, and I am in a mirthful mood, so all of you are going to go up front rather than wait until 9:30. Am I a guy or what? I'll begin by inviting up Dr. Carpenter from District 220 to visit with us, and always happy to have our friends at 220 coming update us on things. So welcome, and please, the microphone.
Thank you, President Richardson. Appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. My name is Josh Carpenter. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Schools in Barrington 220. Tonight, I'd like to speak to you about the school district's upcoming $64 million referendum on the November 5th election ballot. Thanks to the community's support for our referendum in 2020, our Bill 220 initiative has made tremendous progress in renovating our aging school buildings over the past 4 years. However, there are still spaces inside our buildings that have not been addressed in decades, including the east side of our high school campus, and much work is still needed to ensure our students have access to the quality education they deserve. More than 2,500 community members collaborated throughout 2024 on a plan to address these challenges. The district then worked to make the plan even more efficient and fiscally responsible, saving the taxpayers $11.5 million. The final $64 million community-driven plan will go to the voters for approval as a referendum question in November. If successful, the referendum will increase safety and security throughout Barrington 220, build a new community auditorium at Barrington High School, enhance STEAM and instructional spaces for students. You can also visit our referendum website at barrington220.org/referendum-2024. And I believe that a document was sent to you. I have hard copies of that document as well that goes into more information about the upcoming referendum. I would invite you to look at our website. It's very robust. A lot of great information in there, including a link to asking a question if there are any questions in the aftermath. I'm behind the curtain on that, so if you do have questions, I'll be sure to get back to you as quickly as I possibly can. There's also a tax calculator on our website, and a lot of renderings, too, of the projects that we're considering, both hard renderings and also we have animated renderings of our upcoming projects. So thank you very much for your time this evening. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Doctor, we have a custom of going around the dais for people to have a chance to ask questions. Sure. If you don't mind. Thank you. I'll begin on my left with Trustee Schellmoser.
Thank you, President Richardson. Thank you for your time tonight.
If you're successful with the referendum, the money will be used for the items you laid out. What is the time frame that you would not go back to the community for more dollars?
Yeah, our plan is to not come back for 20 years.
20 years.
20 years. This would be, our board has been very adamant that this is something that they feel strongly that these are prioritized projects. The bond for this referendum would be 20 years, and that would be the next time that we'd go out for something this large.
And to bridge the shortfall, has any cost cutting in the district been looked at before going for this referendum?
Yeah, every year we look at opportunities to trim, opportunities to reduce costs. A lot of that is based upon our staffing. As you know, that we're a business that we are very human oriented in terms of salaries and benefits. So each year we do look very closely at how we can save money. Some of the projects that we're also looking at are more efficient, energy efficient mechanicals that we're looking at. As you know, in your own households, when things get old, they tend to cost even more money. So those are costs that we're looking at as well.
Have any programs been cut in anticipation of this that you can list?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Thank you for being with us. One question, you mentioned enhancing the safety and security. Could you give a couple examples of how that would happen?
Yeah, so that's often a question that I do receive, or Dr. Winkleman receives, is our previous referendum, there was a huge focus on safety and security at that point, or for that referendum, and oftentimes people say, you know, I thought that that's what that referendum was for, and you'd be absolutely 100% correct. So what that first referendum did was really sort of standardize our approach to safety and security across all 13 of our sites. And then with this referendum, what we'd look to do is to increase the opportunity to compartmentalize our buildings. As you know, most schools are set up, once you get past the office, it's wide open. And so what we would look to do with this referendum is really look for ways that we can compartmentalize or cordon off areas of our building from a remote perspective, and also move to more key card access to our classrooms and instructional spaces. Right now we have we have hard keys for everything. We would look to move to more of an advanced, more modern approach to accessing spaces via key cards. Those are two pieces that we would look at for this referendum. Thank you for your question.
Trustee Burke.
Hello, thanks for being here. As you look at all the items that are on there that are part of the referendum, obviously there's a priority to those. Is this an all or nothing proposition, or is it it either gets rejected or it gets approved, or can it be done in, we can't get all the money, but we can get some of the money?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The $64 million project includes really 10 projects. They can be put into 3 buckets of safety and security, the community auditorium, and then also increased STEAM instructional spaces, flexible spaces. When we did our community outreach last year, we had 3 different options that we provided to the community to give us feedback on. And we had 10 projects. We had some of the options had 7 or 8 projects, and then for our option C, which was our least amount, had the fewest amount of projects. When we asked the community really wanted everything. In fact, we received very positive feedback on the highest dollar amount of the projects. That was $75 million, $75.5 million.
Okay.
With this caveat, can you make it more affordable? What can you do to accomplish those projects but make it more affordable? And as I mentioned in my comments, we did reduce by looking at other funding sources down to $11.5 million. But the community was very strong in saying, we see the need, but can you make it more affordable? So I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but I know that our community is really interested in accomplishing those 10, having us accomplish all 10 of those projects without taking any of them out. They're all important, right?
Right.
The biggest dollar amount, of course, is the community auditorium.
Sure.
That's almost half of, it is half of the total dollar amount.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Now that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Schaller.
Thank you, President Richardson. That was going to be my question too. You got 3 buckets. What is the cost of each bucket?
Well, I can tell you that the community auditorium is $35 million. Safety and security is around $1.1 million.
Oh.
And then I don't have that dollar amount in my mind of what it's about $15 million then.
Whatever's left.
Yeah, whatever's left, yeah.
So the other part, the other part's almost 33 million. The other part of it would be if it was total. Okay. So the auditorium the community did respond that's an important aspect. I mean, I know they're trying to redo the Capitol Theater. It's not quite the size of Barrington High School's auditorium, but there is such a need, and the school district is taking that responsibility rather than the municipality to build it.
Yeah, so I heard when I came in, there was discussion about, there was a question around a historian up here to talk about one of the, policies that have been in place. When I talk to individuals in Barrington 220 about the auditorium, there has been a history of interest in addressing that auditorium. That auditorium was built in 1960, and the chairs in the auditorium were actually manufactured in the 1940s. So the electrical in that space, the technology that is in that space is oftentimes in need of being addressed. And in fact, with the electricity, we can't find someone locally that can even work on the electricity any longer in that space. We have to go outside of space. So when we talk about, efficiencies, cost savings, et cetera, it is a real need in the auditorium. It's going to be a bigger auditorium. Right. We're going to go up to about 840 seats. And the reason why that is important is because that would align with the total number of students that we have per class. Right now, we can't fit an entire class in that space. That space is really inaccessible in some parts for some of our elderly or individuals that have mobility issues, especially towards the front of the auditorium because of the pitch. So that would be addressed. Safety and security, accessibility. Our community, including our students, have been very adamant about the importance of accessibility, being able to access the stage. Safety also. I talked about safety and some of the enhancements. When we think about safety, we also talk about other issues, just in terms of being able to access different spaces in that auditorium that, quite frankly, are not very safe to access. The catwalk, getting to the catwalk, all those spaces. So, I don't know if does that answer your question?
Yeah, and do you see then, after it's completed, being more of a community auditorium for local events just beyond those for the high school?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you came back to it. We were very thoughtful about utilizing the word community. If you go past our stadium, our athletic stadium, it's the community field. We open that field up for community use, to use the track, for our local sports organizations to use that field. And we would think about that community auditorium in much the same way. So it will be a community auditorium. We have many organizations that currently utilize that, but we also have community organizations that will not use it because we just can't offer the space to them as we're setting up set pieces for upcoming performances for us. We can't really utilize, we can't provide access to other organizations to utilize it, but we do see it in terms of our thought, in terms of how we're building and designing that community auditorium, that it can be accessible to all of our community.
And the plan is to demolish the current and put this where that is?
That's another great question. No, in terms of the scope of this project, I talked about our STEAM and instructional spaces. So we don't want students to lose out. You get one shot at high school, right? So we want to use every square inch of our spaces. So our current auditorium would be renovated to be able to house our 3 ensembles, band, orchestra, and chorus, which are currently in spaces that are not acoustically designed for. So we have many students participating in those. We want to have spaces that are appropriately built for those 3 spaces, band, orchestra, and chorus. So as we're building the new auditorium, we would still have our current auditorium in play until we're done, and then we can
We
move.
do that one,
Yeah.
okay.
So the scope of all these projects would be laid out over the course of a 3 to 4 year period.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Perkins.
Thank you, President Richardson. So back to prioritizing, I'm hopeful, and I think many of us would be, even if you don't have children in 220, the safety, is the safety going to be kind of at the front of the list, or how are we working here?
That's a great question, too. So in terms of the scope of these projects, some of these are more low-hanging fruit, I guess. We don't have to do a design build on some of these projects, including the safety and security. So that would be something that we would most likely be able to jump on right away. We have some windows, doors, and flooring, some efficiencies that we would be looking at in some of our buildings. So those would be projects that we would be able to, address more immediately, as opposed to something like a new auditorium, newly built auditorium. That's going to take some time from design, build, bidding, et cetera, to completion.
Okay, that's great, because, obviously the safety of the children are, and the teachers, staff, is of the utmost importance. What types of security and safety measures will you be implementing? With the safety, like, are there some new, are you going to do, I know metal detectors are very expensive, but, almost weekly we hear of guns and knives and things making it into schools. So how are you addressing the safety measures?
With the referendum?
Yes.
Okay. So I talked a little bit about being able to remotely compartmentalize spaces in our buildings, which right now we don't have the ability to do that. I also talked about key card access for our instructional spaces. So at a moment's notice, we could also close down all of our classrooms, can only be accessed via, I reached for mine because I have a key card on my lanyard, to be able to access those spaces via a key card. So we currently, that's why I asked we currently have many safety features that are currently in place, things that we share publicly and things that we don't share publicly. In terms of how we keep our spaces safe. Actually, the Department of Safety and Security falls within my department, so I'm very versed in what we do and how some of these enhancements can even improve what I feel is a extremely safe and secure environments in our schools, but we can always get better.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Hayes.
My kids are all grown, so, but I understand and recognize the importance of good education, because that makes your whole area where you live attractive and helps things. But on the website, is there much more information about these various projects, I
Yes.
presume? And then I assume a lot of what you're trying to do is to link to enhance the education to make the experience better for the students, to make them better human beings, to make them better productive citizens.
That would be accurate.
Okay, and then I guess if it doesn't pass, and I totally appreciate the safety and security, it's a tragedy that you even have to have what you have now. What's your next step if you don't get the public to get behind you on this? How are you guys, you got a plan B, obviously.
Right. The auditorium wouldn't happen. That is just something that we can't budget for. We have certain items on that list that we would prioritize in terms of things that just have to get done. We can't continue to kick the can on some of these items. So we would have to take a look at our budget and reduce in some areas, and we'd go through a new budgetary process to address the items that need to be addressed right away, and then prioritize the other items on that list. But in terms of the hallmark item on that list, we wouldn't be able to budget that. So we would continue to have to sort of Band-Aid in that space.
And if you do get the funds, then you'll start the design for these projects. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Post-haste.
Yep. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Doctor. Just a couple of quick things. First, I spend a lot of time in Washington in my work, and had the pleasure of sitting next to a very famous Barrington High alum, Amy Walther of the Cook Political Report. And for the benefit of the audience, it is the leading nonpartisan political analysis firm, has been for years. And she was absolutely wonderful, and she is a proud Barrington High alum, and I told her next time she was in town, we'd all host her for something, because her insights into American politics are remarkably keen, and she is much in demand, but I told her the fee would be that we would give her our deep and profound thanks, and she was nonetheless excited about coming home, so I will be knocking on your door, because she is one of the many, many remarkable alum from that high school, including the two that call me Daddy. And there's a whole bunch of others up here who share that experience. The second thing is I spend a lot of time in a combination of my day job and this role in looking at the readiness of small to mid-sized units of local government in two various related areas. One is cyber defense, and I don't mean criminal hackers seeking ransomware, I mean the military intelligence units of hostile foreign powers. And then continuity of operations planning and pre-investment. If the Chinese turn off the lights in 39 states, think of what's happening in western North Carolina. If that happened in 39 states, are we ready? And it's the project I will be working on through the end of my term and after that as a volunteer. BACOG, and you had sent representation to it, and I was grateful for that, is doing a tabletop on this, and I'll be running an event in November on my own. I'm quick to say, especially in public, at my own expense, where I'm bringing in the former head of U.S. counterintelligence and a former senior Defense Intelligence Agency senior threat officer who was the senior duty officer in the White House Situation Room on 9/11. There is a lot of resistance to believing that small towns are of interest, and in fact, we are of great interest for lots of reasons. Same with school districts. I believe TikTok is digital fentanyl. I think it's terrible. And I notice that in the education community, more and more school districts are saying, no more phones in schools. Have you guys looked at that issue, and how would you describe your, not simply your cyber defense capabilities, I think that's the ante now for the poker game, it's really, are you investing in the needed funds and planning activity for continuity of operations? Because I did some polling on this of voters nationally. I paid for a block of questions on one of the monthly polls. And you ask, where are you going to go in an emergency? Like they're having in western North Carolina because of the terrible storm. And they're going to go to the hospital, they're going to go to the police station, they're going to go to the school, and maybe the church. So whether we have formal jurisdiction for anything, they're going to knock on the door. And I'm just interested in the topic. I don't have a preferred answer from you. It's just curiosity.
I want to start with, you had mentioned that you, in Washington, that you had met with a Barrington High School alum, and one of the things that I'm keenly aware of, and this is really coming off homecoming, where I did a larger, Dr. Winkleman and I did a larger presentation with the alum and other interested community members at Barrington High School. And if you ever get an opportunity to visit Barrington High School and some of the work that we've done there, it is a beautiful space. Alumni coming back were really just amazed and really proud. And as I did some tours with high school grads, you really get this sense in Barrington, really more than any other place I've ever been to, just really about the importance of this community, the larger Barrington 220 community, and people want, individuals want to see that continue and be enhanced. Sorry, your question before?
Well, it was simply about cyber readiness, and more importantly, in my view, post-cyber attack, continuity of operations, planning and readiness.
Right. So within our school district, we are, we certainly have, threats, from a variety of different areas. You had talked about TikTok and some of those elements within our framework, our strategic plan as a district. One of the areas of focus that came from our community was to focus on social media awareness and the impacts of social media on our students. So this year, we've actually brought together an advisory committee from our community that includes experts, parents, students to talk about social media. And we don't want to, we're not saying that social media is evil. We're sort of starting at that neutral standpoint and understand what we can do to support parents, what we can do to support students, and have a conversation first, as opposed to making a lot of rules and regulations around it. But we do take stands in our policy around cell phone use in our classrooms, and we reinvested in that conversation this year. And have shared with parents what our expectations are, what our students, what our expectations are. But that is not, it's not as easy as flipping a switch when it comes to, students and are used to having their phones with them all the
The
time.
New York City school system recently decided to just say no, during school hours, the phones get put away. And it strikes me, but I'm 300 years old, so, I get it. I'm the dinosaur in the room. And, but I've been fearful of this stuff because some of the algorithms have been decoded and they promote things that are terrible. And children are still impressionable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, men don't get smart until they're about 50.
Yeah.
And so I worry about that. I hope you are looking at what New York and other big school systems are doing about really tightening the usage of those devices during school hours. I think it's worthwhile. And then on continuity of operations planning in the event of a longstanding, a Western North Carolina kind of moment, if there's a tornado or something.
Yeah.
Tell me about your readiness there and how you feel about it.
Yeah. So, like all school districts, we have drills that we do on a yearly basis, and some of them are related to an intruder on campus, an armed gunman, and run, hide, fight, and those sorts of drills, but we also have severe weather. We have relocation and reunification plans. So if a school is in a space where we can't use that space for a period of time, we have partners within our community, whether it be a church, whether it be another school next door within the community, that each one of our schools has a partner site or sites that they can go to, and then our plans would be put in place in terms of contacting parents, transportation, et cetera. So certainly we have contingencies in place in the event that one of our spaces cannot be used, flooded, fire, et cetera.
Yeah, it's not getting easier, it's getting more complex. Thank you.
I don't
We appreciate your time. We didn't mean to keep you, but the questions were all terrific from my colleagues, and I appreciate you being with us. Please extend regards to Dr. Winkleman for us.
Thank you, President
Thank you.
Richardson. Thank you. Thank you. May I approach? I have a
Of course you may.
copy of my comments for the record.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very, very much, Superintendent. Thank you. The coffee's always on. Come on by anytime. We're going to go out of order. Sarah Lee, would you like to come up, and we're going to talk about KOI and the 5K. And the mic's on, so just introduce yourself for the record and tell us a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. And after we visit with everybody, we're going to pass all these things so you don't have to wait until 9:30 when we actually get to the agenda items.
No problem. So my name is Sarah Lee Franchi. I'm a local resident. Sorry, totally nervous, don't do this very often. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I lost my best friend 7 years ago to domestic violence, and since then have done a walk every year in October to raise awareness. I actually do a 5K every day, but that's alone. Just so that no one's ever walking alone. If they choose to do it, I'm doing it the same day, so I do it every day. But Coy and Friends was started 6 years ago in honor of her. We would collect personal items, gifts, things like that, so that we could work with local shelters to provide Christmas, Thanksgiving, back-to-school items, personal hygiene, things like that, to shelters in the area. We work with Turning Point in McHenry, and then we also work with a Safe Place in Lake County. They are actually who we work with closest due to my move. I used to be in Cary, which was McHenry, now I'm out here, so we work with a Safe Place more so that people's money stays in their local county. Ever since COVID, we've done a 5K virtually, and it's also throughout the states. A lot of people in California do it. That's where my best friend was. That's where I'm from. Every year it is virtual, but me and my family and friends gather in a place where we can walk together, put on our purple shirts, and be seen on the streets. This year, a Safe Place had reached out to us and said that if we were doing it, they would like the opportunity to speak kind of on our behalf and theirs. They were going to be bringing someone, I'm not sure exactly who it is, as far as either an off-duty officer, a DA, or a judge was going to come and kind of speak to what the issues are in the county. And then a Safe Place was going to speak about what they're doing, the services that they're providing to the community to help in that situation. The services that they provide are everything from emergency housing to more long-term shelter, as well as legal help, drafting up restraining orders and things like that. They do amazing stuff. If you're not familiar with them, I highly recommend going to their website and checking them out. They're great. But they were going to come and speak to kind of what they do to help in the community, and also kind of let all of our friends and family know what we do every year with them. All of our money goes directly to a Safe Place. To date, we have helped over 500 people with their Christmas presents and their back to school. We provide 50 Thanksgiving dinners to families that are in shelters every year. I think we've done a lot for just being a little someone. We're not big, but this year, normally I just have friends and family in my backyard and we do a little pizza party. But this year, since Safe Place was going to come and speak, I wanted to do it somewhere a little more official, and I thought the gazebo over at the park would be fantastic. It is going to be a semi-private event in that it was going to be friends and family that were invited, coworkers. It would probably be 40 to 50 people. That being said, anyone is welcome. If someone were to come, I'd say throw on some purple and let's walk, let's do it. There is no fee to be there. We just kind of wanted a place where we could gather, have the speakers, eat some pizza, and then walk the trails. So that is what I'm hoping that we can do, and that's why I'm here.
Well, God bless you.
Thanks.
This is a calling onto ministry,
Thanks.
and we are called as leaders, whether we are elected or not,
Yeah.
to give back to those who have less. And you have our profound admiration.
Thank you.
This board won't have any trouble. Your agenda item 7D, I'm going to pull it out of the consent agenda just so you can see us do this right now.
Okay.
Chair would like a motion to approve the application for a temporary use special events for the KOI and Friends Virtual 5K Meetup and Discussion to be held on October 26, 2024, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Friar Farm, correct?
Yes.
Chair would like a motion, I'm going to call this out of the consent agenda for purposes of the record. Chair would like a motion on that.
So moved.
By trustee Schalmoser, thank you. And may I have a second?
Second.
By trustee Perkins, thank you both. And I will ask the clerk to please call the roll on that. 7D, called out of order.
Trustee Schalmoser,
Yes.
Trustee Perkins,
Yes.
Trustee Burke,
Yes.
Trustee Hayes,
Yes.
Trustee Schaller, Trustee Van Ryn,
Yes.
President Richardson.
Yes, I regret that I'll be out of town that weekend, but be in touch with me and I'll do a little something for Christmas for you.
Appreciate that
Yeah.
very much. And anybody is welcome. It is not a private event. It's just not
Thank you.
advertised.
We appreciate your service to the community. God bless you and keep you.
Thank you so much.
We do have social media channels. If you would like us to promote it, we'd be happy to.
I would love it. That's always great. So is it okay if I reach out to you?
Yes.
And then I do have one, just for clarification, so I don't do anything wrong. One of the things I was hoping to do is the little signs, they almost look like political signs. We were going to kind of put those around the grass with statistics showing like what the need is, and then also kind of a statistic of like, to date, this is what we've done. Is that something that would be okay for us to stake in the grass? Okay.
Yeah,
I just don't want to.
I appreciate you asking. I'm unaccustomed to that. Secondly, I spent a number of years on the board at Wings
Oh, fantastic.
and worked real hard on their safe house in Rolling Meadows. And it takes a special kind of courage that I don't easily summon, because you see the very worst of human nature done to the most defenseless.
You really do.
Yeah.
The scariest part is it's the person that's supposed to love them the most, that's
Precisely.
feeling the most pain, and that's just really hard to wrap your head around, so it's
I cry at the drop of a hat these days, so I'm going to stop now, lest I be blubbering the rest of the meeting. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, we can move now. Why don't we have the treasurer come up with Mr. Tracy? And which one is that?
Thank you. I'd like to say there was no problems, but if he has problems, he will tell you there were problems. And there's no surprises. So basically, the fund balance we talked about when you had the final financial statements from me back in August, May or June, our fund balance was about 12 months, and it's still about 12 months. Well, remember that number, because we'll talk a bunch this year. We've talked about creating a new fund for road work. So we'll have to decide what we pull out of there to pull into a new fund, but right now we're 12-month fund balance. And pension's in good shape, but please, the microphone's yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here this evening. First of all, I'd like to thank Peggy and Jenny and the rest of the team for...
Turn the microphone.
Yeah, push the button again, yeah.
I shut it off, I'm sorry. I'd like to thank Peggy and Jenny and the rest of the staff for all their assistance during the audit. We met ahead of time before the end of the year, set out a plan, and they were ready for us when we came out, so we certainly appreciated that. As Peggy mentioned, what you saw during the year and what she presented at the end of the year was pretty much what the audit says. We just made one adjustment in the water fund for capital asset additions and depreciation expense, but beyond that, we really didn't have any adjustments to the fund financial statements. We do make some adjustments to convert the fund financial statements to the government-wide financial statements, because they're both included in the audit report. The government-wide is more of a long-term focus, so we have long-term assets, long-term liabilities on the books that don't show up in the fund's financial statements. But those are the same adjustments we make each year for that. And again, it relates to fixed assets, your net pension liability, things like that. We do take a look at internal controls as well. We walk through transactions to make sure the controls are operating as designed. We found that the controls were operating as designed. We didn't have any exceptions in our work as it related to internal controls. We felt the control system as a whole was very effective. If we had found any weaknesses there, we would have presented those in a management letter as either significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. That's the language we use. But we didn't have any of those, so we didn't have to do that this year. As far as the audit itself is concerned, just a couple highlights from that. Our independent auditor's report is our opinion on the financial statements, and that was what's called an unmodified opinion, so it's the highest form of assurance that we can give that the financial statements are fairly presented. Again, as Peggy mentioned, the fund balances are in good shape. As you said, approximately a year's worth of expenses in some of the funds. The general fund balance did decrease this year, but at the same time, at the end of the year, your fund balance was still in a strong position overall. Most funds demonstrated adherence to budget, particularly on the expense side of things. Expenses were always within budget at the fund level. The IMRF, your pension fund, has a net pension liability, which is again only reported in the government-wide statements, of $194,000 at the end of the year. This was down from the prior year, about $262,000. And this again is just a function of you make your contributions annually, they accumulate earnings on those contributions to use to pay future benefits. So the fact that the fund itself is 90% funded, up from 85% funded in the prior year, it's in a really good position. And that's kind of, as long as you're making those contributions annually that are required, as determined by the IMRF actuaries, you're going to be in good shape with that fund itself. So again, a very overall, I thought it was a very smooth audit this year, limited number of adjustments, very limited number of adjustments, and really no issues with the internal controls, so.
It's our custom to go around and let people ask questions, so thank you, and we appreciate the good words here. One of the reasons this board can act with confidence is we have complete confidence in our treasurer, our administrator, from both a competence and an integrity standpoint. And we're very blessed in that regard. So to hear others say it about us is wonderful validation. I'm grateful. I will yield to Trustee Schallmoser for any questions.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Trustee Van Ryn.
I have no questions either, but thank you.
Sure.
Trustee Burke.
No questions, thanks for your help, and great job from our staff as well, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Trustee Schaller.
Thank you. Just for the general public, what's the reason for an audit?
What's the reason for an audit?
Yeah.
Well, it's required by state statute if you're in excess of a certain dollar amount in revenues. But it's really, it's to provide that financial assurance for the board, more so than anybody else, I think, because you have the fiscal responsibility as the board members for the village. And so this is just kind of helping you adhere to that responsibility, providing an independent set of eyes on the village's finances to make sure that, one, amounts are being reported properly, transactions are being handled properly, and and there's full and completeness within the financial statements themselves. So we provide that assurance, outside assurance. It's reasonable but not absolute, but it's assurance.
Good practice.
Yes.
Good practice. Thank you.
Trustee Perkins.
Thank you, no questions.
Sounds like this year went a little faster for you than last, so that's good to know.
Yeah, no, I think it went really went well this year, and Jenny really was very enthusiastic when I first met with her in terms of wanting to make sure she had everything ready, and was really good about reaching out with any questions she had as she was preparing. So we certainly appreciate that.
Thanks for coming tonight. And
Oh, sure.
Great job to the team, again. Thank you.
Yeah, I never miss an opportunity to share with the public one of the financial policy decisions this board, and frankly its predecessors, made. And it has to do with the issue of fund balance or retained earnings, or I guess in layman's speak, the nicest one is rainy day fund. The bond rating agencies won't give us a AAA because we refuse to hold more than is absolutely necessary of the taxpayers' funds. They've told us if we held more of the taxpayers' money, back up, if we took more from them and held it, we'd have a higher bond rating. Well, the difference between AAA and AA plus is de minimis, and as a matter of policy, this board and predecessors have said, we will keep what is prudent on hand for emergencies, but not anymore, because at the end of the day, we believe as a board, it's not our money. It is the residents' money, and they work hard for it. And so we will never have a AAA bond rating for that reason.
Yeah.
And I sleep real well at night with that as a result. How do you think those trends have changed in municipal finance in the last 15 or 20 years?
Well, it probably depends on where in the municipal area where in the geographical area we're talking about in terms of fund balances. But I think in general, I think I've seen, especially in recent years with added funds coming in through COVID-related funding and stuff like that, some municipalities have built up some significant fund balances. I really expect to see a lot of project work being done in the near term with those fund balances. Others have kind of tried to maintain that line where they, at the sufficient but not excessive level of fund balances, which is where you're at for sure. But overall, I think in general, I think fund balances overall are probably in a little better shape than they were 10 years ago across the board. But again, that can vary significantly depending on where you're talking about geographically.
Well, thank you. We will extend the same courtesy to you. Chair would like to go to agenda item 8A and ask that a motion to approve and accept the audited financial statements for the fiscal year ending April 30, 2024. May I have a motion, please? So moved. By Hayes and Van Ryn. Thank you. And the clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Hayes? Yes. Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Shellmoser?
Yes.
And President Richardson?
Yes, thank you. And thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to work with everyone here.
Okay. This evening, 8D, and I'm going to ask Margaret Resnick to come on up to the podium, please. We are replacing Earl Carpenter, who has resigned from the Plan Commission. And Earl did a splendid job for some 20 years in that role. And his circumstances are such that he's chosen to move on and to wish us well, and we certainly wish him well. I met Margaret through a Lake Barrington Shores resident who serves on our Ethics Commission. And we got to talking, and I'll let you tell a little bit about yourself, but I was really impressed about how her background and her views on fitness and healthy living dovetailed so nicely with our brand statement of an oasis of gracious countryside living, and that they're part and parcel of one another. And you've gotten a pretty good taste. I mean, the Plan Commission is very, very important in this village. In any community it is, because it is the first line of receipt for proposals, for change. And the reason we work so doggone hard, and Margaret, like so many, have suffered through my presentation on this thing in the other room, where I ran her through the slide deck, and she shares the vision of what we want to be. You know, so much of government is knowing what you want to be so that you know what you're not when people come with proposals. Sometimes up here, residents can get a little unhappy and come in and really let the volunteers know that. And so we need people who understand the policy, take the time to master the details, and bring from experience a perspective that's consistent with what this board and its predecessors have done. So, Margaret, I'm delighted you're interested in undertaking this, and let me ask you to introduce yourself to the board. And you've met Trustee Burke, of course, and I also want to say Plan Commission Jeff Williams has met with Margaret as well and is enthusiastic about her joining the Plan Commission himself. So welcome, and we're going to do a motion after you introduce yourself. We'll let people go around, ask any questions, and then we'll do a motion, and then it's going to pass, I'm confident, and then I'm going to swear you in.
Okay. Well, Margaret Resnick, I've been in Lake Barrington a little over 7 years. I grew up in Biltmore. As I said, I didn't get far in life. I'm about 2 miles from my childhood home. Went to North Barrington School across the street. I spent 30 years in local government. I was in Parks and Recreation, and as the executive director at the Mundelein Park District was my last position for 13 years. I retired in May of 2020. Had nothing to do with the pandemic. I had announced in December my son was having his second child, and I just wanted to see the baby more. So I'm not very familiar with unhappy residents. I've dealt with unhappy residents. In Parks and Recreation, we were fortunate. We were the fun people in town. People didn't generally come to our meetings unless they were happy about something. They might call, they might send an email, but I've dealt with unhappy residents, and I think I'm pretty good with that. I like being involved in the community. I've been on many boards. I was a Rotarian. I was a Kiwanis member. So I'm familiar with working with teams. And I do have a master's degree in public administration, so I had a little bit of planning in that program, which was fascinating. I, at one point, thought maybe I'd go to that side, but decided Parks and Rec was way more fun. So I did that for 30 years, and I'm still involved. I still recreate quite a bit. Lake Barrington Shores is a fabulous place to live if you like to recreate. So that's it.
Thank you. I'll yield to Trustee Hayes for questions.
No, thanks for standing forward to help out. We can use great talent, and
Thank you.
really glad you stepped forward.
Trustee Perkins.
Yes, thank you very much for jumping on the train here, and welcome.
Thank you.
Trustee Schaller.
Thank you very kindly, obviously, for your work in LBS already.
Yeah.
Your many years in Mundelein. That park district is obviously it does very, very well, and obviously if you've been involved with it that long, you're a great part of that. So we welcome not only your expertise, but your insight into how we move forward with zoning. So thank you, and thank you for volunteering. Pressure, President, I'm sure.
Thank you. Trustee Burke.
Hi, Margaret. Nice to meet you in person. We had a chance to talk on the phone, but I wasn't Zooming because I was driving, so we didn't actually meet face-to-face. So enjoyed the opportunity to catch up with you and talk to you along with Jeff and Kevin, and we're excited to have you join the Plan Commission. So thanks for stepping up and volunteering for your community. We appreciate it. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Trustee Van Ryn.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for volunteering. One question, how has it been spending time with your grandchild or maybe grandchildren now?
Well, it didn't work out as well as I was hoping because of the pandemic. I was going to watch the girls 1 or 2 days a week, but my daughter-in-law was home because of the pandemic, so I didn't get to do that. But the oldest is now in kindergarten, so I get to spend a little more time with them. We do sleepovers at my house, which is exhausting, but fun. So no, they're wonderful, they're healthy, their parents are great. They live in Mundelein, so it's just 20 minutes away, which is great.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Look forward to working with you.
Trustee Schallmoser.
So nice to meet you. Thank you for stepping forward. What a great benefit for us, years of experience. So looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and I promised Margaret this would take no more than 20 minutes a month maximum. It was easy, piece of cake, everybody's grateful. Yeah. How'd that work out for you, Andy?
She's well prepared.
Wonderful. Well, Chair would like a motion that the Village Board advise and consent to the appointment by Village President Richardson of Margaret Resnick as a Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals member for the term ending April 30th, 2025. And the reason it's just until then is that's the remainder of Earl's term, and then you'll be reappointed for a full 5-year term after that. So, Chair would like that motion, please. So moved. I'll move it by Burke and Schaller. And I will ask the administrator to please call the roll.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Schaller.
Yes.
Trustee Hayes.
Yes.
Trustee Perkins.
Yes.
Trustee Schallmoser.
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Yes.
President Richardson.
Yes, now I'm going to go down and we're going to do that oath that's on the...
It's not there anymore, though.
It was there, I saw it too.
I think the assistant superintendent has it now, probably.
It wasn't me, yeah, I think you're right,
I think the Army Corps stole it. We got to find those Army Corps guys. I think they...
Superintendent's notes, whoever said that. That's just to avert the crisis, Sheriff. Yeah, right. Or at least a couple of minutes. You can't get this full crisis.
Right, so check it for income. That works. I know it works.
Yes.
So we'll put this together and then we can both see it.
Okay.
And I will ask you to please raise your right hand. I, Margaret Resnick,
I, Margaret Resnick,
having been appointed to the office of Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals
having been appointed to the office of Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals
in the Village of Lake Barrington,
in the Village of Lake
in
Barrington,
the County of Lake aforesaid,
in the County of Lake aforesaid,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the Office of Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals
of the Office of Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
My congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sticky podium.
Okay. And we have a tradition that the newest one buys the round of drinks at the Castle Road.
It's past my bedtime.
Thank you. We look
Okay.
forward to your service.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
Excuse me. I'm going to go out of order and just ask Jim Crum to come back up for a moment and just let us know about the remaining dialogue in the other room.
Certainly, thank you. I thought the dialogue in the other room was very fruitful. We got some very good feedback from the local residents. We talked about the next steps, which would be a field trip, and we'd be coordinating that through Sharon, and for them to anticipate contact by Sharon on that. So it was very positive and very fruitful, and it's what's really needed to have a productive study. So thank you for allowing us to do that across the hallway, and we told them there'll be many more, those type of discussions, so.
Are there questions for Jim from any of the trustees? Okay. Thank you, Jim. Safe travels home tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Agenda item 6 is the first opportunity in the agenda for the public to address the board on non-agenda items. And I don't see anybody seeking recognition, so we can move to agenda item 7, which is the consent agenda. And these are all my matters that were discussed in committee of the whole prior to this meeting. MCI Institute and Academy. B, an ordinance amending Title I of the Lake Barrington Village Code regarding Section 1-10-7, fees, charges, and other amounts payable to the village. C, consideration of a proposal from Bartlett Tree Experts for tree care services at Village Hall in the amount of $13,525. And D was handled previously, so Chair would like a motion to approve and block agenda items 7A through 7C.
So moved.
Second. Therese, okay, thank you. Trustee Van Ryn and Trustee Hayes. And I will ask that you please call the roll.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, thank you. Agenda item 8 is the treasurer's report.
Good evening again. So I'm going to start, I'm extremely defensive about audit adjustments. So I want to explain the audit adjustment that the auditor proposed, and I didn't fight him on it because it's, anyways. So basically, it was an argument over what to capitalize and what not to capitalize, and it was expensive work done on 2 different wells to the tune of $98,000, and they made me capitalize it. And I argued with it, but I backed off. Anyways, that was the...
Expense it instead of capitalize it.
Well, because it's, you know, he's arguing it's extending the life of, to me, it's just maintenance.
Got
You
it.
know, to him, it's extending the life of the asset. I said, I was extending the life of the asset for 20
Got it.
years, but okay.
So he was arguing CapEx and you were arguing OpEx.
Right, exactly. It's just
How long do you have to appreciate it?
25 years or something.
Okay.
Anyways.
But we paid them to be cautious and
Well, it's,
ultra-conservative.
you know, it actually really wasn't worth arguing about. We're not like reporting, you know, if we were reporting to the public, you want to capitalize everything, you know, you want to show this great net income. Bottom line is it's cash out of the fund, you know, and that'll come up in when we do our study. But I don't like audit adjustments, so I'm very defensive about them, so I just wanted to explain it.
If it makes you feel any better, I used to have the same arguments at my business all the time, capital versus,
Right, and in your business, well, it depends who you're reporting to.
Right.
Right, yeah, you know.
same argument.
Same argument, so anyways, that's all it was. Nothing nefarious, nothing that we did wrong or anything like that, so.
We never doubted you, Peggy.
Well, he
just so
didn't
you know.
explain it, I'm like, oh, he explained the audit adjustment, I was like, I'm gonna stand up and I just
Our
couldn't.
praise for you remains effusive, so don't even worry.
Yeah, I worry about an awful lot, but I gotta say, this never, even on the radar screen remotely, this isn't another universe.
Well, if you would have seen, how many times I sent this back to him with markups and changes, I'm sure it's gone, oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, but anyways, if you find a typo, I'll be shocked.
The confidence of you, because he normally doesn't get that.
What's that?
The confidence of you
Oh, okay.
doesn't get that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay, so back to the financial statements. We have the financial statements for the 4 months ended August 31st. 2024. So we're a third through the year, which is really hard to believe because it's going quite fast. The flash report, you'll see assets of $3,175,000. Our liabilities are $502,000, and our equity is at $2,673,000. Our revenue for the 4 months is $1,484,000. Our expenses are about just $1,007,000. Gives us a net loss of $215,000. At this point last year, the loss was $842,000. So we go through our exercise of explaining those differences, and we pull out the unusual items. When we do that, our net income this year, loss, is $468,000 of revenue. I said that backwards. Compared to last year of $237,000. So I try to find some differences, what's happened last year versus this year, and things maybe planned or didn't plan. There's really three major items, and one surprisingly is building permit revenue is up $44,000, it's like 77%. That's up quite a bit. So when you sort of query that, you look at it, there were 4 major projects that were started this year, that were larger than usual, that brought those permit fees in. And we did increase permit fees last year, if you recall. Actually, on June 1st, we increased them. I don't think that's a big part of it, but I do think that part of it is the project revenue coming in. But it's a nice change to see from prior years where that revenue was declining, but it's probably a little bit of timing. We might not see as much work in the next couple of months, but it was nice to see. Interest income is up $22,000 from last year, and that's a couple of things. We had this 3-year turnover, so we really locked in some high yields last year. It's, close to 5% on some of those bonds, which is really exciting. But also what's happening is, interest rates are going down, and so our bonds are becoming more valuable, and that number does go into interest income as well. We mark them to market each month. They're 3-year, bonds for the most part, so as they get nearer to the maturity date, that, extra market value does come back down. So it flips around. In these years where we have these extreme ranges in rates, you'll see that. Typically, we don't have that happening every year, but now because of, after COVID, those rates just jump crazy. It should start smoothing out in the next couple of years. But those are the 2 big revenue changes, and then also our engineer expenses are a lot lower at this point than they were last year. We did more road work last year, and we did it earlier. So those are just the main differences why, last year to this year, it's about a $240,000 difference. So, it's just something to look at, but nothing to be concerned about. We can go to the budget, the actual report, and so once again, we're just a third into the year, but we can take a look at there and see how we're trending, overall. So page 12, I believe, your pages are always different than mine, so I always apologize. I always seem to put your page in this, but I don't. My page 12, which is page 12 of the financial report, will show revenue is 54% actual budget. That sounds high since we're in the third through the year, but you'll see we've pulled in, almost half of our revenue from real estate taxes has come in. We collect that twice a year, and that's come in. So that's a big number which pulls that up. Road and bridge tax. So everything else, you look through here, the revenues are pretty much trending, pretty close to budget. Like I mentioned, our building permit revenue is up. It's 70% actual budget. We'll obviously hit budget this year on that. And our licensing, and so forth, that comes in early in the year, so that pulls the number up a little bit as well. That's why it's trending a little bit higher than budget. The next page, page 13, our expenditures are 44% actual budget. So we're trending pretty close to budget. Some of those items come in sooner, and one of those is our road work is probably at 73% of budget, so that's going to pull that number up as well. So nothing here is out of line or nothing to be worried about at this point. It's just we'll keep an eye on it, and some of it's just timing. But happy to answer any questions on that if anyone has any specific questions.
Questions for the treasurer on that?
Okay, well then we can move to the motor fuel tax fund. We're still building assets in there with $500,000 in net current assets in that fund at this point. We will use that fund next year for road work. So it builds about $20K a month, so that's adding up nicely. And lastly, the water sewer fund, there's net current assets in there about $1,694,000. Nothing really to highlight in there this month. I do know the water rate study is going to be up and running very soon, so I'm excited about that, see what we're going on that. And that's all I have until we discuss the warrants. Any other questions?
All right.
I do have a question, Peggy. I never asked it before, and it was from the auditor. The IRMF funds, are we our own island within that program? You talked about the funding, it's 90+%, which is
Right.
great, right, compared to the
Right.
state. But are we our own island with our
Yes.
funds?
Yes.
So it's our people only that are part of the,
That we're funding.
yes.
Correct.
Okay, good, that's nice to know.
No, no, it's in really good shape. Yeah, I mean, and the interesting thing on that report, the most important line I look at is the net investment income each year. That's like a 10-year trend. If you look at the 10-year thing for the pension fund there, this past year was good. The year before, they lost almost $300,000, but that was a tough year for a lot of investments. So as long as you see that sort of generally, in the right direction, we give what we're supposed to give. That's the key thing. But it has to go, they have that big thing where they do the combined statements and they show your net liability. Because we're paying our mortgage amount due each month, we're paying our, monthly amount that we owe the bank, so to speak. They're showing what the mortgage itself is under the bottom line. That wasn't always shown. So there were villages that were, sort of barely making their required contributions, but their mortgage was severely underpaid, and so it was, that's why now they're making those villages show that. It barely affects our bottom line, but it does.
That's why I asked the question, because we don't want to go there.
No, we don't want to go there. But IMRF has been fantastic for us, yeah. Okay, so the biggest thing I have to mention before I start on warrant A is we've stricken an invoice. If that's correct vocabulary, I'm not sure. So CFW restoration, $28,146.88. That's been taken off the warrant. Sharon, those Reeser Pearson received an email about 3:30 today from our insurance company saying, don't pay it, the amounts, probably, until
No, they're still going back and forth on certain amounts, certain costs of that project.
Basically saying, let's wait till we pay that amount. So we're kicking it.
Can I make a suggestion on this? I've been on the other side of that, they've done the work, right, and they're adjusting it. Is there some way that we can authorize, as long as it doesn't exceed that amount when it's finalized, if it's under, that a check can get cut? Otherwise, they're gonna wait another 30 days to get paid when they haven't done anything wrong.
It's for
they
the
just wait
company
for
that
adjustment.
tore up the walls and everything after we flooded. Chicago Water and Fire.
And we're satisfied with the work?
Well,
Yes.
the insurance company is using the words unreasonable and unnecessary expenses being charged. I would suggest
Yeah,
that.
but that's
Well,
what
no, I'm
insurance
not suggesting we pay them. What I'm saying is we authorize when that adjustment is made,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
that then you guys would be free to pay that
we're in agreement.
agreed-to amount with the insurance carrier.
I think that's a reasonable proposal. Do we need to make a formal, or can we just have that as a sense of the board?
No, we should have a motion to.
Okay.
We don't have the amount, though, to approve.
Well, it doesn't require it.
Well, it would just be up to the amount you have there. They would have to
Okay.
be that or less, and if it, once it get reconciled, that's all I'm saying.
Okay,
I'll pull up warrant A.
okay.
I bring this up because I've been on the other side. I've waited 6 months because of this
Insurance
kind of
messing.
stuff, and it's not fair to the vendor
That's a
if
good
it
point.
gets reconciled. That's what I'm
Right,
saying.
that's a good point.
Where is that on this?
It's alphabetical.
CWF restoration,
Yes,
right?
that is-
Okay. So Chair would like a motion to approve. You want to state this for me, Rich?
Yeah, I'd like a motion to approve this firm, can't remember the name,
CWF restoration.
CFWF restoration in the amount of, which was the original bill, what was the amount?
$28,146.88.
Yes, that once the insurance company reconciles the amounts, that you'll be authorized to release the funds based on our vote tonight, that is.
Up to that amount.
Up to that amount, yes. So if it
And-
goes above that, then we'd have to have a separate discussion.
And I will leave it to Sharon and Peggy to make nice on the minutes with this, with Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
And you guys want to know why I ask unanimous consent to leave the record open for 5 days for necessary and technical conforming amendments? That's exactly why you do this. So, great suggestion, because they got businesses to run and they've done good work, so they don't have to wait. Thank you for bringing that up.
Was that a motion?
Yes. Oh, now I've got to call the question. May I have a motion, please? Moved by trustee Perkins. May I please have a second?
Second.
By trustee Hayes. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Perkins? Yes. Trustee Hayes?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Schalmoser?
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I will continue just going over a few of the other invoices that are on the warrants. Nothing's overly unusual, but I do go through a few of them each month. Cuba Township, a couple of drainage issues. There's one invoice for $1,800 and then one for $2,500, two different drainage issues. State Graphics, the fall newsletter, $2,313.22. And then lastly on warrant A, McHenry Plumbing, there's two amounts for the water sewer fund. One is $3,999.09, the other is $2,500. And that was some work done at both water treatment plants, a meter replacement and a line replacement. Relatively small amounts, but those are on there. And then finally, on warrant B, there's two amounts, one for $4,000 at Cuba Township, there was a culvert replacement. And then IML Risk Management, we have our insurance premiums, our annual premium is due for next year. We're paying it early because we get a 5% discount. We're paying it a month early. I thought 5% for 1 month was good finance. Anyway, so there's two on there. One is $18,396, and that's the general fund portion. And then the portion for the water sewer fund is $14,160.15. I will note that it's up in total about 7% from last year, but a big portion, we are now paying a bond on our in-house account on the $1,500, and that's a big portion of the increase from last year. We didn't have that before because we were using outside accountants. So that is all I have on the warrants. Any questions on that?
Questions on the warrants? No, all in order. So, Chair would like a motion to approve in block agenda items 8B through E. B, approve the financial statements as of 31 August 2024, pay bills B, or C rather, in the amount of $338,100.84, as listed on accounts payable warrant A dated October 7, 2024. D, pay bills in the amount of $44,923.06 as listed on accounts payable warrant B dated October 7, 2024. And E, pay bills in the amount of $889.23 as listed on the accounts payable warrant C dated October 7th, 2024. May I have a motion?
Excuse me one second. Did you change the amount for warrant A, or should we change the amount? I missed what you said. Because the 338 includes the 26. Should it include it, or should it, we did that separately?
46.
So, of the 338.
Yeah, so the new amount for warrant A is $309,953.96. I apologize.
Say that again, 309.
$953.96.
All right.
Because you pulled out the CFW separately.
Okay. So as amended, Chair would like a motion to approve in block agenda items 8B through E. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Trustee Hayes, may I please have a second?
Second.
By Trustee Burke. Thank you both, gentlemen. Administrator, will please call the roll.
Trustee Hayes.
Yes.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Perkins.
Yes.
Trustee Schaller.
Yes.
Trustee Schalmoser.
Yes.
Trustee Van Ryn.
Yes.
President Richardson.
Yes, thank you. Agenda item 9 is the administrator's report.
I have a quick report this evening. A few months ago, during a board meeting, President Richardson mentioned to me that the corn crib was looking a little
Tired.
shabby.
Yes.
I met with an Eagle Scout on Friday about a potential Eagle Scout project for him to repaint the corn crib. He went around with his dad, they took pictures, they have to bring it back to the Scouts to get approval. I'm hopeful it will happen.
We've done that before for Eagle Scouts. on
Great,
this,
so
yeah.
I should know something, hopefully the next couple of weeks. It would be a project that would happen in the spring, but I just wanted to let everybody know we are moving forward with that.
Wonderful. It's such a great thing to support the Scouts.
Yes,
It's just, that's perfect. That's a win-win.
So will we provide the materials and he would provide his time?
Yep, time and labor. Yeah, and I've talked with, I've spoken with TJ from Cuba Township. They're in agreement on providing the materials for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Win-win. Good. Anything else?
nothing at this time.
There is no clerk's report tonight, under number 10, so we can move to the reports of the standing committees under 11A, branding and comms. Trustee Van Ryn.
Thank you, President Richardson. First of all, I had the opportunity to attend the Pepper Park Fest, which happened back on September 21st. Great evolution of that event over last year. More people, they consolidated some of the activities into closer proximity. I think there's still room for improvement, and I think the chamber realizes that as well, but it's great to see that event grow year over year. Also, as promoted in our newsletter, Taste Fest is coming up on October 23rd at the Wild Onion Brewery. Tickets are selling fast, so check out the Barrington Area Chamber of Commerce if you're interested in attending that. Also, a quick teaser, February 8th is the date set for the next Cocoa Crawl, so lots of great events happening in our community. Speaking of the newsletter, the fall newsletter dropped within the last week, so huge thank you to Sharon and her team for an excellent newsletter, just top of the line. And our LinkedIn followers continue to grow as well, so we'll make sure we get a post up there about Safe Place, like we heard about earlier today. And please forward me any other opportunities you'd like posted. Thank you.
Questions for Trustee Van Ryn? If not, please. All right, 11B this evening, Economic Development.
Thank you. Couple quick things. Update on the Lake Barrington Steakhouse. The owner, Sean McHugh, has informed me that they're going to start kind of a soft opening, probably towards the end of October, early November. They certainly want to be fully up and running for the holidays. That's the goal. Turns out that they're doing quite a bit more work, I guess, to the space than they originally had thought, which is all exciting and good, meaning they're doing a lot more work to transform the space to make it be what they want it to be. So I appreciate that they're being very deliberate, taking their time to get it right the first time. Also related to that, if you recall, we approved the sign for that retail center, and he's informed me that he'll be coming for his permit probably in the next couple of weeks. So he's just pulling all his final design and plans together so that he can share that and be asking for the permit. So I told him to please let me know that, and so that we would be looking for that, and that we could make sure that we were being expeditious with getting that approved, because we'd certainly like to see him get started on that. That does leave open still the unfinished business of what, if anything, we are going to contribute to that. Did we make that determination?
Up to 25,000 was what was determined?
That's what I don't remember. I don't think did we ever vote on that?
We'll have to go back and look
or
at the
did we
minutes,
just
but I thought it was up to that amount.
See, I thought we discussed it, but I don't think we approved it.
I'll look at the minutes tomorrow.
I'm uncertain, that's why I'm bringing it
Yeah,
up.
I will look
I'm
at the
uncertain as to
minutes.
what we actually agreed to do. So I think I don't know that we took a definitive action is what I'm saying. So to be continued. He's moving forward. I mean, he's not asking, he's moving forward, he's committed to that. He knows that we had made the commitment to him to review that and as a board and make a determination of what we were going to do, okay? So we need to revisit that, I guess, is what I'm saying at this point in time. Then the only other issue is online sales. Treasurer Hirsch always monthly gives us an update on that, holding our own year over year, July to July, down a little bit. We did lose, and she did point out, we knew this was coming, a couple of key retail sales tax contributors. One was the Cape Marker store that used to operate here, is now really operating out of a showroom in Barrington, and this is really her warehouse space. So we're beginning to see the impact of that. So sales occur in Barrington, warehouse is here. So that's unfortunate, but that's the way she's now choosing to run the business. She can make sales out of the warehouse, and there may be still some, but the majority of her sales are going to come from the showroom in Barrington. And the other one was Tech, which was this IT group that actually kind of grew out of nowhere, quite large, and became a pretty significant tax revenue. Like they came out of nowhere. In fact, they grew so big they outgrew us. I mean, they moved to, where did they move to, Peggy? Do you recall, Schaumburg or Rolling Meadows? They just needed a ton more space. Like they were growing like a weed. So unfortunately, we lost that revenue. That was a nice revenue stream for us. But Treasurer Hirsch also reminds me that our online sales continue to really be strong in terms of revenue and helping to offset any of these kinds of losses that we see in our bricks and mortar businesses here. So holding our own, and that's the extent of my report.
Thank you. Is there other questions for Trustee Burke?
Whatever, I thought Insignia at one time was going to move into the village. Whatever happened to that?
That's an excellent question. Do you recall?
I had reached out to them shortly after I started, and they never got back to me.
Yeah.
I know they own the property, because when
Right.
I've gone on like the tax portal, they do own it. I can try reaching out again.
Yeah, they're still down on Barrington Road, but they say the building is for sale or for lease, so
Yeah, that was when they sold the business to
Yeah, I
somebody
thought they were
else.
gonna
And they
move on
decided
here.
they wanted to downsize and move
Yeah.
somewhere more affordable, and we thought they owned the space, and it was just a question of when. So it's a good question. They've
it
kind
could be a
of
good revenue source.
ghosted us a little bit. No, I mean, we don't know, we haven't heard from them. They haven't responded to us, but we can certainly reach out again. Thank you.
Thank you. 11C, External Relations. I attended a mayor's policy conference middle of September in Oklahoma City. Beautiful community, really worth a visit. They have not only the very moving Oklahoma City bombing memorial, which is really powerful, but we had one night, the dinner was in the Museum of the American West, and the other night was in the museum, and this was really interesting, of First Americans. And the University of Oklahoma has one of the best programs, if not the best program, in Native American history, and both were really wonderful. It's one of those things where, you got 45 minutes for the reception to get through, and you want to spend like 3 hours. So I would say, and the mayor down there, David Holt, is a very gracious host, and it was a wonderful way. Among the speakers, I've got this for you, Therese, was a company called GoGov, and the note from their representative just said, would love to show you how GoGov helps over 450 municipalities enhance their community engagement with a village-branded mobile app for citizen requests and notifications. And in light of what we went through with the event in August, I just commend this for your possible consideration and recommendation to the board as you see fit. So I'm going to give this to Sharon to have for you, and if not them, perhaps somebody else that would buttress the reverse 911 calling system. So not any requirement of any means, but just a suggestion. This is my topic now, so they had an outstanding panel with Chief Information Security Officers on this whole cyber defense and continuity of operations planning, and it was really well done. And they've offered to come out and do a BACOG presentation because I told them about the tabletop exercise that BACOG's doing. So I'm hoping to get them to do that because I just have this terrible feeling that we need to get ready a lot sooner than we think. And I don't want to be maudlin about it. I just want to make sure that if something dreadful occurs, natural or otherwise, that we're ready. And the growing angst I have is because in a certain set of circumstances, we're on our own. There is no cavalry riding in. The tragedy in North Carolina, well, relief supplies can come from Cincinnati and Indianapolis and Chicago and St. Louis and Kansas City. If 39 states go down at the same time, there is no cavalry to ride in from someplace else. We're on our own. And I'm going to be working with Peter on this a lot more as I get ready to leave office, and I committed to Andy to stay on in a volunteer capacity to work with Peter until this is run to ground. And we'll be picking Trustee Hayes' brain because this comes right out of his career experience. So...
You gave it all to Peter.
You've learned more about local government than you let on. So, great conference, and it's one that I hope to continue to enjoy for not only the next meeting when I'm still in office, but afterwards. I made some great friends there. Chair would like to move to agenda item 11D, finance.
President Richardson, before you move on, because you alluded to this, and I intended to ask the question earlier of, Administrator Pearson, but, you know, with our efforts to recruit more and more people to sign up for all this stuff, do you have an update?
I don't have one right now. I can get you one tomorrow. I mean, I know
Any sense of have people responded to the
people
letter?
have been responding. People have been, actually, a woman called me today. She wasn't able to do a couple things. I was able to log on for her and help her. I had a woman who, the Google link for the Lake County Sheriff's Department in the letter for some reason wasn't working for her, so I was able to type it into my browser, send it to my email to myself, and then get it on my phone, and I texted it to her, and she was able to sign up, and I did that with someone else today as well. So we are getting people to sign up. I can give everybody an actual number tomorrow.
Yeah, not urgent. It just kind of popped into my head that we had actively started recruiting, and we knew that was a weak point in our system of how we try to communicate outwardly. We're only as good as the people who sign up. So I know it's only the start of the campaign. We have to just keep pounding this out, but just kind of curious how people were responding to that. And Lieutenant Kirk, just for your edification, we sent a letter to all of our residents encouraging not only to sign up for e-blast and stuff from us, but also to sign up to your guys' app or your website so that they understand they can start receiving directly from Lake County Sheriff as opposed to waiting for information from us in light of the events that took place, last month. So
It's in the newsletter as well.
Yeah, so we're trying to really publish, getting people more actively to sign up for information flow from both your group and from us.
Well, and it reflects a standard best practice in this. You build redundancy deliberately into these systems for fail-safe purposes, because you spend a lot of time in these conversations, I'm learning, and this is very much the case in just how you run companies too, what's the single point of failure? And so a whole bunch of identification and analysis on single points of failure and then continuity of operations. 700 years ago, they had an expression in Tudor England, for want of a nail, a kingdom was lost. And so even our ancestors, multiple generations thought about it. So 11D is Finance, HR, and Administration. Trustee Hayes.
A little longer report since I wasn't here last month. First things first, thanks for Julia in, the newsletter that went out because we hit the permit topic. Interestingly enough, we're going to ask Laura to put it inside the LBS's weekly newsletter. She hasn't yet, but I'm going to reach out to her because thinking of it, the whole village got our newsletter via hard copy. Not everybody does electronics over there where we live, right, John? But I thought about that. It usually picks up for us in the spring, so maybe in the first quarter next year we do it again because you have new faces where we hit the permit. Hit that again because it'll be the season for ramping up. We'll also be able to update it based on what's happening with the portal, which is going slow, but it's moving. We're around the corner, and I'll let Sharon do that on her update. As it relates to, you heard about the audit, that's great news, Peggy, again, and I'm thankful for the team for that going well. As you recall, we approved the compensation role study with MGT, which was a former GovHR. Right now, they've started the project. At the December board meeting, we'll have the presentation of the results.
Actually, November.
Oh, they pulled it up even better.
Will be committee of the whole, and then December will be the board
Okay,
meeting.
right, there you go. Okay, thank you for that. But we'll be able to look at that, but the reality is the review cycle starts in November of all the employees, and we want to layer that into that whole process. So that's coming around the corner. I do want to talk about handling of village complaints, because I got experience this year, and I thought this would be a good topic for all of us. I got contacted by, I'll leave it nameless, but one of the board presidents over there at Lake Barrington Shores, 13 condos, with a resident who needed help because she was frustrated with how the permit process was going. She got the permit, she had a contractor, but failed inspections. That's what went down. So when we get those, how do you deal with it? Well, I hadn't had to deal with one of those yet, right? Everybody's congratulatory how the village is doing. So in exploring that, I said, well, can I get her number? So before I called her, I simply called over to Sharon and to Julia and said, hey, tell me about what you know just so I have some background into it. So first step, and I'm just sharing this with you because I think this is best practice, call the staff here and understand and learn what they know. The way it was described to me was the village staff was all screwed up, okay? This is how the board president over there, which I'll leave names, and that was not him saying it, was what he heard from the resident. First, get all the facts, gather the facts, and so I called the resident, and I said, well, and her complaint was they failed inspections, I got this permit, it should all be good. Well, I said, have you talked to Julia in the permit department? She goes, no. And I said, well, let's start with that. And what quickly got recognized is her own contractor didn't follow the permit. Well, she didn't know that either. But depending on how you handle these situations matters as it relates to how we're viewed in our competency. And so I sat there and I said to myself, okay, call it luck, maybe it was intuition to do it this way, but we got it resolved. The resident who got the permit understood her contractor didn't apply for another permit, which actually she's responsible for, not the contractor, but the scope expanded. They didn't get an additional permit for it. That's where, well, we got that all rectified, it got resolved. But the bottom line is when you get a complaint, the first thing you can go to is, well, maybe the village staff screwed up. Well, maybe not. So gather all the facts, but Sharon can run that stuff down and do that before you call whoever's complaining, no matter where they're in the village. And one day you may get that call from a friend, a neighbor, because the last thing we want to do is make the village staff look incompetent in what we do without gathering the facts. Now, correspondingly, if the village staff doesn't do their job properly, well, that's another issue. We'll deal with that, but it's really just the process. And I thought to bring this up because I talked long with Sharon about this, the need to be able to, and I said, well, who else has gotten called and been berated by a resident? And I didn't know if you had, but if you do, the best thing to do is reach out to the team first, understand it. And when you do that, we can solve the problem for the resident quicker than we can with suppositions. So I just wanted to share my experience. John, you've had previous experience with that, but it's important that we do that way because we got to protect our staff, right? They work for us, and we got to presume that they're doing the right thing, and if they don't, then we'll correct them, right? Nobody's perfect. So I wanted to bring that up tonight.
Rich, thanks for that. I guess to reiterate, I just had a real recent experience, and Sharon, you were working on this with me, with a contractor who was certain that we were just doing everything wrong for his client until we really sat him down and explained. And here's the magic, here's what people need to understand. The resident will play the contractor against each other, and they'll make claims that one or the other isn't doing something, and then each of them will pass it over to the village and say, well, it must be the village isn't doing their job. But what's always dropping is typically it's the contractor not doing their job, and they'll, because the resident doesn't know any better, they just point to the Lake Barrington staff and say, I think they screwed it up over there. So then the resident calls angry that we've screwed something up. The other thing that I would say that I also found out in that situation is it's really not a good idea when a resident comes in and wants to get a permit for the work that a contractor's doing for them. That is a recipe for disaster. So we should be making sure that we're telling our staff that we're asking the question, are you doing this work or is there a contractor? Because you're protected, you're more protected if the contractor pulls the permit, because then we hold them accountable and not you accountable, and I saw that recently too. So we're calling the wrong people and telling the wrong people their permits are expired and they don't even know what that means, and meanwhile the contractor's just doing their thing and doesn't know that they have an expired permit. So that's how convoluted that situation got. So we're learning a lot, but it's great. Your advice to just stop and ask the questions, particularly 99% of the time the staff is following the process and something's broken down between the resident and the contractor.
Yeah, in this particular instance, they had a scope to do, they had to put a well down, they found something else, they fixed it, they didn't think to get a permit for it, just innocuous, can you take care of that? Yes. the inspectors come, our new firm, they go, well, this isn't in the program, where's this in the permit? That's what the whole thing got, and then Julia's like, hey, I don't have anything to inspect, just a spin cycle. And in the newsletter, interesting enough, you bring that up, Andy, we did put in there, if you have a contractor on board, it's good that you let the contractor also interact, because they usually know better than maybe some of the residents. But I bring that up because I think it's just best for all of us to do in that way. And Sharon and I talked a long time about that after the fact, because I'm like, God, I got berated. I got berated. Well, I took it.
I'll leave you with this classic anecdote. The contractor was yelling at me that no one ever called them. So we pulled the permit, and their name wasn't even on the permit.
Nice.
How can no one call me and tell me my permit is because you didn't pull it? Can you imagine? And they're like, oh, I didn't? No. Your client did.
Yeah.
And we called them and emailed them a lot of times, and they ignored us.
All right, well, thanks for listening to me on that one. The other thing, Kevin, ancillary, but I got with the staff, we analyzed the energy bills here, so we have an insight as to what energy load we have, so we can assess what we may need in light of the kind of preliminary work we did. So we got that work study done.
Thank you.
So that's all I have.
Appreciate it. Questions for Trustee Hayes? If not, we can move to 11E, Roads and Infrastructure. Trustee Schallmoser.
Thank you, President Richardson. Rather light report tonight. Attending BACOG's last meeting the other day, there is a big push for community input on our regional bike path and pedestrian paths. And so I sent this to Trustee Van Ryn. She's going to post it hopefully on our website. So it's very exciting to look what projects are going to be prioritized, what residents like, what residents don't like, and to really put your impact across multi-jurisdictions. So all of our BACOG members, so I think that's very exciting. It's interesting, they put up a map, an interactive map of all the trails, and we are really the epicenter of some really beautiful paths. And so people are looking at our models to replicate. So it was a proud moment. And then lastly, over the summer, August 12th and 14th, there was some reclamite put on some streets, and the color of the pavement turned a different color, and residents got nervous, and the contractor put out a letter saying not to worry, this will revert back to a beautiful road. And so I think there's only one resident that complained, and Rebecca sent me a copy of the letter, and Sharon is overseeing that as well. So problem solved, and next time we will be more proactive in communicating in advance the process, asphalt, reclamite, happiness afterward.
And shout out to Rebecca for great follow-up on that, because I raised that issue too, and I said we could head that off at the pass, so she immediately had information from the vendor explaining the process and why it discolors, but then it returns to its old form. So
Right.
Appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you very, very much. 11F, Public Safety. Trustee Schallmoser.
Thank you, President Richardson. Well, we call Lieutenant Curricup to report. I don't know, the administrator and I are starting to get a new daily report from the Lake County Sheriff's Department, which I think we found real useful. Usually used to get a monthly breakdown of calls that were made. Now we're getting a daily report that really is very helpful in determining what activity the Lake County Sheriff's Department is providing to specifically Lake Barrington. And I think it gives both of us a good opportunity to question or to find out and follow up on anything, but also the activity and whether or not, to a certain extent, we get what we're paying for them. And, because we are when it comes to major events, but on a day-to-day basis. So it's very good, and I appreciate that very, very kindly. What else is happening in the county, sir?
We haven't had any major events in Lake Barrington over the past month, which is good. But you did ask me to talk about some scams that maybe bring to light. People aren't aware of what's going on. I do read a lot of reports, so I can see what's going on around the county. And I'll talk about two scams really quick. One scam I saw recently is a real estate scam, where people will post, there was a house that was being run by a management company for rent. Somebody also put it out for rent, criminal, obviously, and they always put it out for a too good to be true price. So they end up getting a lot of responses. They'll take deposits, and in this case, they actually had somebody move in. So the management company ended up going out to the house and finding that there's actually somebody living in the house. So, and I believe they established residency, so it opened up that mess too. So just be careful if there's properties, maybe in your neighborhood or maybe that you own. I've heard it's always good to rent properties closer to where you live rather than have a management company try to run it, miles and miles away. So a bunch of the other scams that I see a lot of are romance scams, where you might even be talking on a forum looking for advice on investing, and all of a sudden there's somebody that's a love interest and they gain your confidence. It's like a confidence game that they played for many, many years, but it's done over the computer. The problem is that, if you're sending your money to somebody over the internet, you're doing it on your own. So when it's all said and done, you're out however much money you sent. There's also a spin to that where sometimes people send pictures back and forth and then they use pictures for blackmail. That, that's criminal, obviously, but those are a lot of the scams that I'm seeing lately. All over the county. Obviously, everybody's got internet access and it could happen anywhere, so. Anybody have any questions on those?
Lieutenant, a number of us attended something at Good Shepherd about 6 weeks ago. It was really well done, and it was for the region beyond the Barrington area, McHenry County and other parts of Lake and northwestern Cook. The Good Shepherd service area, and there are the two continuing top priorities in public health that they shared were the childhood obesity, which of course is a genuine crisis because of the downstream health. But the second one was, we all learned how to administer Narcan, and there was a whole thing about addiction and the fentanyl crisis and so forth. Is any trends on that in our county in terms of fentanyl? In terms of, is juice about the same, or is it?
Our special investigations group, they deal with a lot of drugs, and they've said that they're cutting fentanyl with just about everything other than marijuana. So, people don't, they're buying stuff, they're thinking they're getting one thing, and then they're getting something that's got fentanyl laced in it. So it's a major problem. All of our deputies carry Narcan.
Yep.
And they go through quite a bit of it over the year.
Well, the thing that we learned about the Narcan, which limits its utility for a lot of us, is it's very temperature sensitive. So if it gets too cold, if you leave it in the glove box in the winter, or if it gets too hot and you leave it in the glove box in the summer, it loses its efficacious characteristics that are so essential to successful treatment. So it's great if you can carry it on your person, because your body, ambient temperature around you is typically pretty regulated, but you can't use it just like you leave something else, a flashlight in the glove box or something. Right. It's a real scary thing.
Yes, it is.
Further questions for Lieutenant Kirk?
Other than our gratitude to the Lake County Sheriff's Department for providing their K-9 unit at our barn stomp, it was a big success. I'll let you talk about it, but I just wanted to thank the department on our behalf for having the K-9 there. As he was leaving, unfortunately, he was whining a lot, but must have been because it was so popular.
Are you sure that wasn't the deputy?
No.
That could have been.
You know, Deputy Lowe, he was a real whiner.
He was like, I was like, oh my God.
6'9", and his cohort was like 5 foot. It was a disparity in height.
We had Loki.
You had
Loki.
Deputy Lowe.
Oh, we had Deputy,
Very tall.
the short guy.
Deputy Lowe.
Yeah. I went to talk to him, I was so embarrassed I walked away from him, because I just was like looking, I'm like, I can't even be here.
Yeah, and the little guy took the brunt of the K-9. It was awesome.
Came down good.
Yeah, and the trading cards are excellent, that went over very well. So
Very good.
Our gratitude to the department for not only having the K-9 unit, but providing the K-9 unit for the barn stomp. It was, as I said, a big hit and appreciate it.
No, thank you very much.
Convey that to the department, please.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Barrington Countryside Fire Protection District, they were involved with Pepper Park Fest. They had their open house on that particular date. What do they want to put on them? They're having a kind of a strategy session in November about moving forward with the department, but Chief Motisi also was helped, I think, set up for the stomp, and the department provided their truck, which was another hit you can talk about, but I mean, it was very, very popular. I don't take all your...
Anybody else like?
No, I just want to thank our guys for, I sent Matisi's...
I thought the beer vendor did a great job.
Yeah, right. And by the way, and then just find the Wakanda Fire Department is having an open house on October 12th from 10 until 2, so if you want to jump on a fire engine and take a look at what the Wakanda Fire Department is doing. Interestingly enough, we talked about full funding for our pension, 100% funding for the Wakanda Fire District, $53 million. Wow. You talk about where pensions are going, so it's interesting. But thank you, that's it.
Thank you. 11G, Open Space and Special Events, Trustee Perkins.
Thank you so much. We had a great... It was awesome. Thank you, first off, to Sharon and Rebecca. I mean, wow. Rebecca, sorry, she's not here, but she was amazing. Our attendance was, what, we thought 16 to 18%, up 16 to 18%. Wow. So it was, we had a really good crowd. Very, just, I mean, yeah, great people.
What's the estimate?
Probably around close to 500.
Yeah.
430 to... Yeah,
3,500.
Yeah. Yeah. Because some people didn't get tickets and...
Yeah, I think we gave away around 430 thereabouts, but then you figure not everybody takes one. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, not everyone wants us more, apparently. So anyways, thank you to all of the volunteers here. Thank you, especially Peter. Peter's little guy, Leo, was, I told him he got the award for the best helper because he came in and he was helping set up games, he was helping decorate, he was carrying chairs. He was having a good time. He should have been very proud, and you should be very proud of him. He's an amazing little kid. Your wife was fabulous. Therese, you would have loved to be there with Pete's wife. She was decorating like crazy. She would fit right in with you and your daughter in past years. And then also sponsorship for DB Menswear was one of our big sponsors, and then all of the sponsors, we want to thank them. Kelsey Roadhouse did amazing with the food and drinks. And then also, of course, our Tropical Chill. Cuba Township came out. They were there helping set up. They were helping execute the event, doing hayrack rides, and then helping tear down. The Countryside Fire Department was there. They came early in the morning and helped set up. It was amazing. They were helping as well. And then they were, of course, there for the Touch a Truck, which the kids love, and also to put out the bonfire. It was a little windy for the bonfire, so the bonfire didn't get a lot of attention because I think people were kind of afraid of it. It was quite the bonfire. But also, as Trustee Schaller mentioned, Loki, the canine dog was there, and his enormous handler. Let's see, the Barrington Rotary Club was there doing the bingo. Thank you to them. Thanks to the Lake Barrington Park District that did the beanbag tournament. And then the band, No Filter, of course. Veterans of LBS, we thank all of you for helping with parking. Let's see, I mentioned Sharon and Rebecca. And then Lauren, DJ Sue, she always is just a wonderful help. She just knows exactly what to do and where to put everything. And then also thanks to my good friend Ann Schmidt, who is a social studies teacher at BMS Prairie. She helped gather 40 volunteers, and these kids are serious business. They get volunteer hours for coming out, so they were a huge help in setup and tear down and just helping out with whatever we needed. Really good group of kids. So thanks to everyone that came out. It was amazing. We had a great time.
It's really a signature event. The goal of really driving a sense of community has really been led by this effort. I congratulate you.
It was a lot of fun.
Driving by the property the other day, we've got to get that Toboggan Hill hedgehogged before the winter
They
comes.
will do it in November. I talked to them about a month ago about it. We already chatted about it.
Yeah, I have this tickler list of things that I never forget.
Every year,
Yeah.
my 2 years you've mentioned it to me. Years.
So can I ask you a question? So I took the grandkids on the tractor ride, and it looks like there's a depression at the bottom of the hill that's a wetland. Is that right? I saw reeds growing and, no?
I don't know off the top of
Oh, okay, I just was curious.
Not on purpose.
Where are you talking about?
The sledding hill?
At the bottom of the
Yeah, when you
sledding
get it kind of starts flattening out, and then it drops off, and I didn't notice it
Okay.
until I was up on the wagon, and you can now see up over the reeds, but it looked like a huge depression. Anyways, I'm asking. Not worried about it. Hey, as long as it's ice, you'll go right through it.
Maybe it's designed to catch the runaway sleds.
There you go.
Possibly. It's not, I always try to encourage my husband and my neighbors to go to the Fryer Farm Hill instead of the big enormous ice straight into the river.
Well, we'll see
Over
when
in
it's all cut
FRG.
down, won't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just never noticed it before, I guess. That's why I asked.
Great job. Well, to that end, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic, and I was commenting that you're kind of seeing a change even in the demographic. I think it just keeps skewing more and more. I'd love to see more and more young families, and that it seems like that message is out, and that's really what it's designed for. And I was kind of also surprised by how many people came up and now he said, this is so great, and this property is so great. What else can we be doing here with this property? And lots of people talked about a winter event. So we need to kind of think about that. And I reminded
to the Cocoa Walk.
Right. I mean, I reminded people, and a lot of people here don't even know that that center area where the viewing area is for the band was designed to be a skating rink. It was engineered to be a skating rink, meaning you would just put down you could literally flood that area and turn it into ice. So it never quite worked the way we wanted it to, and we kind of gave up on it. But we have really good friends at Camlin who are in the ice business, and we have a friend over at Barrington Ice Arena who, if we wanted to get some professional counsel on how to turn that area into skating rink, I mean, sort of imagine the winter scene of being able to sled, skate, drink your warm cocoa, and sit by a bonfire right in the Fryer Farm would be amazing. So
all it needs is a martini bar.
And I'll put you in charge of that. You and me will be in charge of that.
My area of expertise.
Yes.
We had some, it was several years ago when we were setting up for Barn Stomp, and they had
all those boards.
It was like an ice arena snapped together Lego set or something. But it's gone now.
Didn't really work.
It didn't really work.
Mother Nature wasn't consistent.
No, and we have to kind of go back to Plan B to figure out what it would take. It's not as easy as you think, but.
I wouldn't, I was thinking.
I had one in our backyard as a kid, it's work, it's like every day, and then you get a warm day and you're like, it just ruined my ice rink.
Right.
It never ends.
But a winter event of some sort would be very cool.
We have actually, Sharon, Rebecca and I have talked about that. we thought about it this year and we're like, okay, we're going to really jump on it and get something planned for next year, because we're not really sure what to,
Chris can
you know,
work.
exactly. Chris can, yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah, beer and wine
musicians would play.
beer and wine didn't hurt the barn stump this year. I think that helped, and Peggy and I registered all the people. There was an awful lot of families that came in and imbibed. And while I was in, a couple of them said, I'm taking October off, but I think that was a good addition to attracting people there. We're not promoting it, but it's nice to have it, and everyone, for the most part, I think behaved themselves. I don't think we had any problem. So it was good. Addition.
Well, Susie, thank you again. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get through this and adjourn in about 40 seconds. Ma'am? Oh, okay, chair yields.
I was able to log on to the reverse 911 system, and from August 20th to today, 249 people have signed up.
Wow.
So 4,800 more to go.
Well, not, well, we already had some.
Well, right, we already had like 3,000 something, some worked, some didn't.
Well,
But these are-
we had I guess what we'd say is, I think we had around 800 that connected either to a person or to a voicemail message system. Otherwise, the rest went, right? So I think our starting point was somewhere around 800.
Right, but I ran a report from August 20th to today.
Right, so you
And
can add those
Yes.
240, maybe
Yes.
to the 800, maybe we're up to 1,000.
Well, and really, there are only 2,300 households.
Households.
So we're almost halfway.
Maybe we're halfway there, which is pretty cool. Good, wow, look at you, using your technology over
I
there.
didn't realize I had it saved on here, so I was able to open it and do my thing.
Nice.
Agenda item 12, there is no old business. 13, no ordinances. 14, resolutions, there are none. 15, new business. 16, second opportunity in the agenda for the public to address the board. The chair sees no one seeking recognition. There is no need for a closed session. Under 18, no other business. And our favorite agenda item of the evening, chair would like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
You say that with such enthusiasm, John. May I have a second? Second. Yeah, okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?